Rolling.
Interview of Mr. John Michael Hrankowski at the Rochester Culver Road Armory on 24 April 2001. Interviewer is Lieutenant Colonel Robert Von Hassel. Videographer is Mr. Wayne Clark. Mr. Hrankowski, tell me, where and when were you born?
I was born here in Rochester, raised here in Rochester, 1946, the day before Christmas.
So you were a Christmas baby.
Christmas Eve.
You always got one present for your birthday and Christmas?
All the aunts, uncles, everybody here. Merry Christmas, happy birthday.
Okay. Now, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I really kind of just felt the way of whatever I wanted to do. I liked mechanics. I liked sales, but I wound up as a deputy sheriff here in Monroe County.
And that was before or after the Navy?
That was after.
After the Navy.
Before high school and then right into the service. I chose the Navy because I knew I was getting drafted. So.
Why the Navy?
They ate good, and you could choose basically what you wanted to do.
And what did you want to do in the Navy?
Well, I wanted to be in the engineering, which I was, and I liked to work with the engines, the steam, and it was good while it lasted. But I had to leave due to the soot in the water mixture makes an acid and started eating in my hands, and I had to choose another field. So I went up and became into the ship's offices.
As a youngster?
Yeah.
How'd you like that?
It was pretty good. It wasn't bad. I'd rather been down there working with the black oil. I'm a black oil sailor. But I did what I had to do, and after 4 years got out.
Well, let's back up. Tell me about your induction.
Well, actually I got a notice 30 days before I joined to come down and take a physical. My number was up, and I basically disregarded it. And I got another notice 30 days later that if you don't go down, we're coming to see where you are. So that day I went and enlisted. And while I was in boot camp, people came to my house from they were looking for me to ask where I was. And I said, well, he's in the service already. So at least I beat it out that way. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And went into the Navy and went to Great Lakes. Did my 13 weeks there. And got assigned to first ship, the USS Liberty.
Now, the Liberty was a converted transport.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. It was a Victory Hull ship. It was the SS Simmons. Fruit, vegetables during World War II in the Pacific, and went dormant after World War II, and they reopened it back up again, and the NSA rebuilt it and put other spy gear on there, I call it. I wasn't part of that, but they refurbished it, and in 1964 they got it out of Bremerton, Washington, and sailed it over to Norfolk, and that was our home port. I picked it up in March of '66.
So she had already been rigged out for the...
Right. She'd already made one cruise over. She'd made her shakedown cruise, one cruise over to Africa. And basically it was a nice, quiet, easygoing, boring type of life.
What did they
Better
tell
than Vietnam, I tell you.
What did they tell you about the nature of the ship's duties and what you would be doing?
Well, what they told us and what we heard from our own people is a couple different things. They classified it as AGTR, was Auxiliary Generating Technical Research, and you can pick and choose whatever you want from there. But basically, it was a listening post throughout the world, and our operating post was Africa, from Dakar down to Cape Town. We were the last American ship in Cape Town, as a matter of fact. And we would set off the base to the Congo or other areas where we thought Soviets or other people were, and they would listen.
Did you ever mix it up and talk to any of the NSA types working in the...
Oh yeah, we were friends. There were, half of the ship was the NSA, the DIA, or the CIA, and God knows what else was in there, but at least I know those 3 were aboard ship. And the other were ship's company, actually the engineering department, the deck force, that kept the ship going and painted, gave steam propulsion. So, but we mixed together, we went over, on Liberty together, and, you hear and you see, and of course we didn't see everything, we didn't hear everything, but you got a general idea what's going on. It's 300 guys together,
So no antagonism or undue mystery between the technicians?
No.
and-
It was, we had a lot of fun aboard the ship, to be very honest with you. One thing was so much boredom. The captain drilled us every day, maybe a couple times a day.
What kind of bills did you drill on?
The 3 general quarters, chemical, fire, and nuclear. Constant. Relieved the boredom. And of course, we're trolling back and forth for 90 days at a time with 5 knots. We used to have fishing contests out, after ship's work and after the base of the Congo, and we caught some good fish. But to be honest with you, the captain was A-okay. He was a good guy. He liked the ship. We liked him. There wasn't a guy today. Excuse me. He's gone. There was anything bad about him.
Now, what was your general quarters position?
My general quarters was down in the engine room, or the boiler room, fire room, whatever you want to call it, right between the boilers. Anything that was related to those boilers, getting them lit off, feeding them, make sure we had steam. That was my general quarters with, I think, about 8 or 10 other guys. This was our area.
Well, let's jump ahead now. The day you were cruising off of Egypt, as I recall, the day of the attack.
Yeah.
What had you been told in advance? What did you know about the general situation?
We had known I think it was May 23rd, we were in Abidjan, Africa, and we got orders to leave immediately. Flank speed to Rhoda, Spain. And on the way there, bits and pieces were coming out that a war was imminent in Israel. A lot of bolstering was going on between the Arabs and Israelis. And we were just to go to Rhoda, Spain, and wait for orders. So we pulled into Rhoda on June 1st. We loaded up cargo, and we brought 6 civilians aboard, or 3 civilians and 2 or 3 Marines, linguists aboard.
Mhm.
And that was really strange to have civilians aboard, because everybody else always had a uniform, whether they were civilians or not. Everybody had a uniform on. So we traveled for like the first 7 days to get to where we were going, and nobody actually knew, but on the 7th day we were told that we were going to be trolling in international waters, and we were going to set a condition that a ready condition, because there was imminent war. War was already going on. It was like the 3rd day of the 6-day war. And the next day, which was June 8th, we had been trolling. We actually just got on spot. We had been trolling just very little, and planes had started coming over us, very, very low, looking at us, seeing us. Of course, our gear, supposedly, and I don't know this for sure, but our guys will testify someday to this, that they were hearing the pilots talk back and forth. We actually seen the pilots. They were so close. As they buzzed us, we waved, and I actually waved at 2 different passes. There were 13 different passes before the attack.
The first pass was by a patrol bomber, wasn't it?
No, the first pass was, I can't remember the name of it. It was like 5:30 in the morning, and it was coming back from someplace. It was actually a jet that was coming back. I guess that spotted us. But the others were control bombers. There was actually a Piper Cub there. people hanging out, taking pictures of us, jets coming back from runs, going to wherever they're going, to see the missiles on them.
And
So,
all throughout this period, you were streaming a large American flag.
oh, yes. Yes.
There's been some talk about whether the flag was
Yeah,
actually...
it was a sunny day, it was a beautiful breeze at 12 knots. Of course, we were going 5 knots, our trolling speed, and we were just going back and forth, back and forth. And we were no threat to anybody. They, as far as we were concerned, Israel knew who we were. We thought we were in no danger at all. So, our captain had warned us, that again, there's war going on, and just be prepared for anything that should happen. And we drilled again. After every lunch, there was a drill. And we drilled again. At 1 o'clock, we drilled, and we secured just before 2, and right after we secured, I, of course, went topside. It's about 120 degrees down where I worked. So I come topside for a little fresh air and a little smoky air. There's some smoke. And I don't know where they came. They came in shooting from a mile away. 2 jets, 2 Mysteers. They came in and they just made passes, rocketing the ship like crazy. I took my first hit up there, a shrapnel hit. It was not terribly bad, but it was knocked me down, and immediately everybody that was gettable to get up, they went immediately to their general quarters area. I went down in the engine room. We crew down there. We lit off the one boiler that was off the line to make steam to get the hell out of there. And for 2.5 hours, they just hit us over and over again.
Was it the same flight of Mysteers?
No, they had Mysteers. They had there were different planes, plus torpedo boats came in, and they just picking guys off that were running around trying to put fires out. They dropped napalm on us. They hit us with cannon fire. They hit us with rocket fire. Their first pass in was to knock all the antennas out, and they did. And within 9 minutes, one of our guys got a message out to the 6th Fleet, and we were known as Rockstar to the 6th Fleet. So the Rockstar is under attack, unknown forces. They hit us with unmarked planes.
Mm-hmm.
So Saratoga scrambled immediately and launched planes. They were 10 minutes from us. Robert McNamara got on the horn and called those planes back. The America was doing the same thing. They were 10 minutes from us, called them back. Saratoga launched again, 10 minutes from us, and this is within like an hour and a half, close to 2 hours, and those were called back. And all along, knowing we were getting attacked. New revelation as of yesterday that an Aegis plane was flying way high, heard us getting attacked, knew it was the USS Liberty, but did nothing. 2 NSA people came out yesterday and said this. And today's date is what, the 24th of April 2001. So that's a new revelation. We took the attack. We went as far as, we took a torpedo. They shot 5 at us. And we took 1. And it blew a hole in the starboard side of the ship, 46 by 42. It was all below water. Killed 25 guys instantly. We're lucky we didn't crack in half and go down. It was 10 feet from where the engine room was, so they were aiming at the engine room. And 4 or 5 prior to that missed the torpedoes. So thank God they were bad shots anyways. And we were getting ready to prepare to abandon ship. So we had 3 life rafts left. They had burned every other one from napalm or shelled them up. And our crew threw them over, and the torpedo boats moved in and shot them up, which is against the Geneva Convention. They shot 2 and grabbed 1.
Now, all this time, if I recall correctly, your captain, as soon as you were attacked, turned due north and went at flank speed back deeper into international waters.
We tried, but everything was basically against us. We were ready to hit a sandbar. We were supposed to scuttle the ship. Thank God we didn't. I was the last one out of the engine room, out of the fire room, because we had ready to secure, and they said, no, the ship was going to hold up, so. But by that time, the engines, everything, generators had stopped from the attack itself, and it took us time to relight again. And finally, we got out into water, open water. So it was a horrific 2.5 hours. The last end of it is we were leaving. 2 Israeli helicopters came loaded with troops. And, the doors were open and they wanted to land. And the captain actually gave the word, repel boarders. And you're a military man. Repel boarders is, that's the last attempt. There's nothing but hand-to-hand or pistol, whatever you had to defend the ship.
I don't think the command repel boarders have been given in the United States Navy in over 150 years. I mean,
Right.
last time was the War of 1812.
We got the word, so wounded, everybody went. We got as many guns that we could get, and the Israelis just closed the doors and left. That was our 2.5 hours experience.
Now, wasn't there another Israeli helicopter that came later that actually?
Yes, there was our attaché, Ernest Castle, comes and after the attack, about an hour or so after the attack, and wanted to land aboard. But we wouldn't let him because, there was bodies all over. Napalm was still burning. It was chaos aboard. We're trying to bring the people down to the mess decks. And he drops a bag with 2 oranges in it and his card. And on the card, the captain read, do you have injured? You have injuries? There's a guy you could see from helicopters, a guy with his foot blown off there. There's a hand over here, and there's blood all over the place. So the captain told him to just leave. And
I'm sure it didn't help anybody's state of mind that he was flying in an Israeli helicopter.
exactly. So that was the start of a different way of life for 200 plus guys, 270 some odd guys that were on that ship. It's been interesting last 34 or 35 years now. We've asked, we were told immediately, like 2 hours after the attack, you're going to write a letter home to your folks, tell them you're all right, and you're not going to tell them what happened. And as the days went on, there was notices in the Planet of Days that you're never to discuss this. You don't discuss this with your fellow shipmates. You don't discuss this with your family. If you call from Malta, we were at Malta getting repaired, you don't discuss it at all. You don't talk to anybody. You don't talk to the press. That order holds today. Before they threatened us with jail, Leavenworth, and all this other stuff. 1982, a book was written, Assault on Liberty. It was written by my shipmate Jim Ennis.
Mm-hmm.
And we came together as a crew again, and we set some standards for ourselves that we would press to be heard. There was a court of inquiry that was very private. It was very scripted. Logs were changed. The deck logs were changed. It was nothing. What is written today is nothing what we went through. What I'm telling you is so foreign from what is written in any books at all other than our own.
Mm-hmm.
They think we were really concocting something up. But Israel got away with murder. The United States let them get away with murder. The United States still has some answers to people that were in power then. McNamara is still alive, and there's other people that still have to do some answering. There were some laws that were broken, military laws that were broken. We formed, again, I'll go back, we formed a group, USS Liberty Veterans Association.
Mm-hmm.
We are in contact daily. We promote our cause to make sure that we get to have a congressional investigation. Anything that's been written about us or about the incident has been written through other people. Nobody other than us, when we write something, we tell you what it is. Anybody that has written dissertations or something about the Liberty has never talked to us. Our Congress has never talked to us. We've asked Congress many times, please, have a congressional hearing for this. Don't open the hearings up until 2055. Keep it, at least ask us questions, let us answer the questions, let us tell you what we did. There's just nothing there. And it's just so unfortunate, but we keep trying. I have a piece right in with Schumer right now that I've asked him. I says, he wrote me a letter that telling me what a great job he was doing. He was helping a World War I veteran's family to get a Medal of Honor.
Yeah, I've been involved in that one too.
And I told him that was so great. I'm so proud of you. I says, how about helping us? And I laid out my case for him. And I just got a letter back from him saying that, please, we're still working on reading this. Don't get nervous that we haven't answered you. But with this new revelation as of yesterday, it'll be interesting if he is ever going to get back to me or what.
John, we'll come back to all the other things you want to talk about in a couple of minutes, but I just want to take it a little bit further forward.
Sure.
What happened to you after the attack? I mean, how much longer were you in the Navy?
I had 2 more years to do. I got transferred off the Liberty in December of '68 and went to a new ship, the USS Canisteo. It was a brand new oiler. They'd cut her in half, put a football field inside of her that big, and welded her back up again. They made the first jumbo oiler. And I got transferred aboard there, and it was pretty tough the first couple of months aboard ship. They knew where I'd come from. They knew nobody was supposed to ask questions, and they basically shut me out from anything. I did my work as a yeoman, and I ate my meals by myself, and finally somebody had cracked, and they said, Jesus, you're one of us. And I said, I can tell you just so much. And finally got taken in by the crew, but it was probably the toughest time I ever had in my life. And I did that service. I got out in Election Day of 1969 and went to work and held this for till 1982. We didn't talk about it. My wife, when we got married, of course she's going to see scars in that, and she knew about the Liberty, and we never discussed it until 1982. My son the same way, and it opened quite a big event for us in 1982 when that book was. When we got together and that book was out, that we could talk about this. They kept tabs on most of us for almost 10 years. I mean, we had sent postcards in from our address, and finally, after about 8 years, I never answered anymore. I said, go to hell, you want me, come get me. I'm a civilian. So, but that's been my life. I'm active now with the Liberty Veterans. I speak all over the country. I've had some health problems here just recently in the last couple of years, but I'm getting back now, and I'll start speaking again. We have a documentary coming out in May that we'll be sharing with VFWs, colleges. I'll be back on the speaking tour again.
Let me, before we're going to come back to all the Liberty and questions.
Sure.
But just so we have an up-to-date record, you got out of the Navy,
Okay.
became a deputy sheriff?
I worked in the air conditioning refrigeration industry. I sold some for a while there, and then became a deputy sheriff. I worked in the courts of Rochester here, and was very active in the unions, and people knew the story, and the sheriff was very supportive of us. I actually took a case of books and got rid of them for me at the public market one time. Brought me back some money. He's a nice guy to do that. He was good. Our staff was good. They knew what I was going through. Time off, if I had vacation time and I had to go speak someplace, they would let me take it without too much hassle. So that's what I did. But I started getting
Keep going.
talking about me.
Get rid of No.
Just people you know? Okay.
No.
We're doing an interview here.
Go use the front door.
Use the front door. We're catering for the Camera Association.
Front door.
Well, you'll have to do a little editing.
We don't edit.
Okay.
That's the way it's going to stay.
Well, people, they're going to see it. I did get ill my last few years at the Sheriff's Department. I knew this was coming on, and I did leave. I did go into some surgery, and I'm basically retired right now, and military-wise and Social Security-wise.
Now, you got married?
Oh, yes, yes. I'm married, been married since 1969, August 69, and got one son. And I live in Greece, New York, and we have a nice home. And we've been very active in politics throughout the years. And now I'm just doing Liberty stuff and keeping my options open, I guess. Is what to say.
Let's pause there. Go back.
You tell me what you
Yeah,
want.
let's go back and talk some more about the actual attack. Because
Okay.
you told me you were on the main deck?
When it started, I
Right.
was up just from a general quarters drill, and they came in shooting. We never even heard the planes until they were passed, and they've shot their rockets out. And quite a few guys got killed topside that were milling around the gun mounts. We had 4 50 caliber machine guns for armament on that ship. The rest of it was all antennas. And it was chaos, but everybody went like they were supposed to. Everybody went to general quarters, whether they were wounded, you know. Of course, the ones that were really bad laid there, but a good 85% of us went, and we got in our spaces, and we just popped immediately.
Now, where were you wounded?
I got in the shoulder, the hip, and the back of the neck.
And it was rocket fragments, or?
Shrapnel pieces, and I got diesel burns on my arms and my hands. Diesel fuel. And but basically it was, it looked like a porcupine with the shrapnel. God knows how it stuck in there, but I was still picking pieces out as of about 4 years ago. They come to the surface, and
Yeah.
you pop them out, and you think it's a pimple, and little filings come out. But it was nowhere near as what I had nowhere near what these guys had. My shipmates, it was just
Now,
some carnage.
What were you thinking at the time?
We thought maybe World War III started. And from what I hear from the America and the Sixth Fleet, they thought World War III started also. Because they immediately went into general quarters, and they stayed into general quarters for a week or so. And nobody knew who was attacking us. We didn't know if it was the Soviets or what. Because
But-
the first passes were unmarked planes.
But afterwards, you could identify the planes as being
Yeah.
Israeli.
Oh, yes. And the torpedo boats, too.
Right. And what were you thinking at that point?
I was not seeing them, but I was hearing words passed down to prepare for a torpedo attack, and stuff like that. And from what I talk with my guys, my shipmates, I mean, they seen what they were. They seen the Israeli flag, and we don't know why they attacked us. Or so we got an idea, but we don't know. For repeatedly circling the ship, attacking us. Our bow letters are 10 feet high. They're 5.5 feet or better on the stern of the ship, so they could see who we were. Our flag was up there. Got shot down during one of the first passes, but they put the Holiday ensign up, which was huge. It was like 9 by 13 feet, and that stayed up there for the rest of the attack. So if we were without a flag, it was for minutes. But things that we have seen from the Israeli archives that they have blacked out, they have pictures from their planes, they have blacked out our numbers. You could see where they've made a shadow where our ship's numbers were and for where the flag is on top. So it just shows us even more, they knew what they were doing. And we've had interviews with pilots that didn't partake into the attack and got court-martialed. And we heard that there were American pilots serving out Israeli terms. We don't know if we can substantiate it, but we heard it. We heard from a major that was in a war room. They had us pegged all morning, and they knew who we were, and they knew who we were attacking. We have him on film. We have him on tape.
Did anyone ever suggest a reason why the Israelis attacked?
Well, there's been a lot of suggestions. Just they got to tell us. We got an idea. It was because of the Gaza. They've been fighting over it for the last since the Liberty attack, where they took it. And Johnson supposedly had told them, "Don't take any more land. You have won the war. The Arabs are controlled. Stop." And June 8th is when they were going to take the Gaza, and or the Golan Heights. Excuse me.
Golan, that's
Gaza,
what I had
I'm
heard.
talking about the Golan Heights. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but
I had heard that they were afraid that you would pick up the electronics
yeah.
of the tanks massing for the attack on the Golan.
I don't even think we were set up yet, from what our guys tell us. And we had no Hebrew linguists aboard that I know of. And it's just dirty rotten shame that they wanted to do what they were going to do, and we happened to be there, and they could have cared less. We were not going to stand in their way. The United States, which was kind of a benefactor, not as big as now, but kind of back then. And they just threw all caution to the wind and just says, "The hell with it, you're going down." But they didn't do what they were supposed to do. They didn't kill us all. And they kept us quiet until 1982. And now here we are. I'm telling you my story. I tell it as much as I can. But
Let me ask you some other questions. There's so many things here. What did you think when the Pueblo was attacked?
We've talked about this. So guys, they separated us totally. Nobody was together except for some of the CTs, communication guys. They worked in around the world together, some of them, but they had everybody else. We had our own ships. Nobody was together. And after years, getting together, we talked about what we thought, and it was basically, it seemed like the same thing. The news reports we were getting. Johnson left them there, promised them cover, and when we finally got a chance to talk to Commander Booker, that's what he said. He said they promised them like they promised us. Promised us. We're 10 minutes away. Don't worry. Go in and do what you got to do. They went in and they got caught. Nobody came for them. And Commander Booker to this day states that if he would have known the actual truth, what happened to the Liberty, he would never went in at all with the crew that he had and the gear that they had for defending himself. He wouldn't have went in. He would have disobeyed a direct order. But not knowing, that was it.
Now, what about your family, though? They must have heard on the news about the attack.
Well, my dad was very political here in Rochester, and what they did is they went through Bobby Kennedy's office, and what they kept telling them is no news is good news. I mean, you're going to hear immediately that, almost immediately that when the list comes out, your son's going to be on there. So that's what they told them for, I think it was 6 or 7 days. And finally a list came out after that. We had trouble, an awful lot of trouble aboard the ship, getting exactly who was alive and who was dead. Because where the torpedo was, it was flooded out. and there were bodies down there, and trying to really get a head count from the main battle dressing station, and from all the spaces, everybody was still at general quarters. So after about 6 different counts, one time he came up, my division officer, who actually took charge of the ship after Captain McGonigal finally gave it up, he went with a crew one time. They got 400 people counted, and there was 294 guys. And then they got a lower count. Finally, they stopped the ship, and there was an order, a general order, saying nobody moves from their spot. No matter if you're walking, you stay right there. They finally got a count, but it took hours to get that done. So 6 days later, I guess my folks found out my name was not on the list. But they weren't. They really weren't sure until I called from Malta, because we had to sail from the attack zone. We had to catch up with the fleet, which was 16 hours. We sailed alone. There was a Soviet ship that sailed with us and told our captain that if the ship starts to go down, we'll be there to help you. A Soviet ship. And of course, they were collecting everything that was flowing out of the torpedo hole, but yet they were there and they offered help. 16 hours later, we finally caught up with the America and the Saratoga, and they started transferring our guys over to get medical help, and it was pretty chaos. They had divers come and see if they could see inside, where the torpedo had hit, and it was. They thought it was good enough that we could sail. We sailed at like 5 knots to Malta, and pulled into Malta, and the rest is history. They fixed it up. It's funny how they fixed it up. The Yardbirds at Malta, they cut patches out about the size of this table, and where the rocket hose that comes through, they put on in front of the patch. Instead of cutting out the hole, the rocket hole, they just patched it, welded it, and they painted it. If you've seen the Liberty, when you seen it come in, when we were coming back to the States, it looked like it had a new paint job. When it got closed, you've seen over 800 plus rocket holes, and cannon fire and machine gun fire. I mean, they counted over, they estimate over 1,000 hits, and it was like Swiss cheese. But they took we had to go down and clean out all where the torpedo hit. That was pretty disgusting.
You lost a lot of shipmates down there.
Yeah. I was not buddy-buddy with them because I didn't work down in those spaces, but yet they were my brothers, and it was pretty tough. It was tough because it was very eerie. It was, going down there, and there's some pictures in the book I gave you about it, and the attack is bad enough, but I mean, you talk about the nightmares and that is probably one of the toughest things to think about every day, just the smell of the fuel oil, the smell of the decomposition of the bodies, and who you're picking up, you've seen them before, you've sailed with them, and it's so disgusting. But if it was war, it would be different, but it was just a direct out and murderous act that they did, and I just can never forgive them for doing that, and never forgive them for lying to us all these years, our own government and Israeli government. But we continue to hopefully be able to tell our story someday. Thank God we have this here as a way to vent.
What did you think about the captain being awarded the Medal of Honor?
I thought it was excellent. That man walked through fire aboard that ship. He was our leader. He deserved it.
We're down to 2 minutes.
He deserved the Medal of Honor. First of all, he took it for the whole ship. That's the way he was accepted it. He took it for all the men, which is a pretty big man. But the way he received it was pretty poor. He received it in the shipyard. No notification to almost anybody. I never knew that he received the Medal of Honor until the book came out. I never knew I received the medals I wear on my hat now, the Combat Action and the Presidential Citation. Presidential Citation was never issued to us formally. It was finally issued to us formally in 1991 by an admiral that came to one of our reunions and issued, President Bush made him come. And he invited us into the White House, and we did go to the Rose Garden. You want to go ahead and do what you got to do?
Yeah,
Change
let's,
dates.
interview of Mr. John Michael
Hrankowski,
Hrankowski,
yes.
Rochester Armory, 24 April 2001. Go ahead, John.
Okay, about the captain receiving it, again, of course, he deserved it. He did it for not only himself, he actually didn't want to, thought he earned it, but they wanted to give it to him, and he received it not by the president, he received it by Secretary of the Navy, Paul Ignatius, and they had a small dinner, and he went on his way. And it was pretty much of a slap in the face to him.
Did you see him at reunions afterwards?
Yes. Finally started coming around 1980, I think it was 1989. He had seen guys would come out to his house. He lived in Palm Springs. And we kept correspondence, I kept correspondence, because he knew the Liberty was getting a lot of play from the book. He was a little disappointed, and he was a little nervous because we were supposed to keep quiet, but we finally convinced him, hey, listen, this is history that's not been reported, it's a lie. And he finally came out with us in 1989. And the big reason was there's a town in Grafton, Wisconsin that built a library.
Mm-hmm.
And they named it USS Liberty Public Memorial Library. And for 2 years, that town went through torture to name it. I was there probably 10 times with press conferences, flew in for press conferences, flew in for dedications. And I was so disgusted at what I seen sometimes. At the groundbreaking, they brought people in from Milwaukee, and they had placards of "Don't name this is anti-Semitic, don't name the library." They had the picture of the ship, and they had a line through it, as if to say stop it. It was something that I've heard throughout the time since we being called an anti-Semite for trying to tell our story, and when I've talked around the country. But this was right in my face, and I just couldn't believe how this was orchestrated. I mean, townspeople were getting pressured because this was a town-financed library. Dentists and industrialists were putting money into this thing, and they were getting pressured from Milwaukee people and Milwaukee Jewish Council, or the Milwaukee Sentinel. They were relentless, but the town weathered it out and built this library, named it, and I have a lot of good friends there now.
Now, are there any other memorials to the
Yes.
USS Liberty?
Yes, Zimmerman, Minnesota, which is near Milwaukee, it's about 20 or 40 miles from Milwaukee. They have a monument there for us. They've named a park there for us, the American Legion, and we have our home port there, and we have our own doors, our own entrance in their American Legion. It says home port, USS Liberty, and I'm trying to think now. There's other places around the country that there's been a school named the Liberty High School in Wisconsin. They have our Liberty Bell. Of course, the library in Wisconsin, they have a lot of our Liberty memorabilia. This right here gives me a chance to have it memorialized. And what we've been doing lately is we are honoring the people that have honored us throughout the years with a bronze. Like Admiral Moore, who was CNO just after Liberty, was been out for us, fighting for us like crazy with Congress, and he's dedicated. He has an acknowledgement in one of our openings in the book, Assault on the Liberty, and we honored him. He was our first one. We're honoring Grafton this year. this year, last year, we honored Zimmerman. We'll be honoring people that have honored us. Pensacola is a big training base down there for CTs. They have 5 buildings named for us. If you look on the web, there's over 200 places around the world that have the USS Liberty names. Japan, they've named buildings after our men. Down in Norfolk, they've named the new dental dispensary after our captain. So it's been different having certain sects of people around the country, around the world, take it upon themselves to award us and to remember us in different ways. So it's quite humbling. But what is frustrating is not to have our story being able to told in history books and being called an anti-Semite for telling our story.
Are there any memorials at Arlington?
There is a mass grave at Arlington, and that's it.
Nothing over the grave?
No. Well, we've changed. I should tell you, at the mass grave, we had the headstone changed when the 6 were buried there. The headstone said their names, and on the bottom it said died in the Mediterranean. Well, they didn't die of any disease. They were killed. So it took us 3 years and a lot of help from a lot of military people to get that stone to read their names and say killed USS Liberty. So if that's a memorial, that's a victory we got taken care of.
Have you ever heard of the USS Panay?
Yes.
Any similarities, you think?
I know of it because it gets thrown in our face every now and then by different organizations. I know not much of it other than it was pretty similar. But then they go back to the Maine too, and they go back to...
Except the main probably was an accidental explosion.
That's right. Well, they like to parody it. No, it was an accident. Israel says it was an accident, it must be. Accidents don't last 20 hours. In a lifetime, as far as I'm concerned.
How have you been dealing with it since then?
It's a tough thing. I counsel, which thank God they let us do. And I got a good wife, got a good son. They're very supportive.
Which bothers you more, the actual event or what came afterwards?
Came after.
Why?
We're part of history. We did the right thing. We saved that ship. There was many firsts that happened, and we have every right to be where we were. And because it's a country that so supportedly on the United States, they got away with murder, and this is stuck right here to this day.
What do you think would be appropriate for the Israelis to do?
Be truthful and tell exactly what happened, but I can hardly believe that that'll ever happen. They want that land. They've been fighting for thousands of years, and to me, for them to admit it would be an admission that they have treated other people so terribly. I don't want to get into politics of that thing at all, but my big thing is, and I'm sure our other guys, we got an apology. 3 minutes after the attack started, they were still attacking us, and they were apologizing to the White House already. But while the attack was going on, but I would like our Congress to do the right thing.
What do you think Congress should do?
Congress should open this thing up, get the hidden stuff that's still buried in the NSA and the other governments that know exactly what happened. Take our testimony, ask us questions like they asked the Cole, they asked the Stark. They damn near court-martialed Pete Booker, Captain Booker, and give us a chance to tell our story and let it go in history. It's not being anti-Semitic to do or say what we're saying. It's reported that way. And there's people that get paid to do that. And it's the American public is too busy working and trying to feed their kids to worry about our story. But it would be nice for our story to be where their kids could read it, the truth of it.
Why do you think that those, I understood that planes were scrambled off the Saratoga and then recalled.
Yeah,
Why? Did anyone ever offer you an explanation as to?
no, no. Admiral Geis had told, who was aboard the carrier America, and I can't remember but he was the admiral. He's right up there. He told our senior officer, Dave Lewis, he didn't want to have us feel remiss that help was not on the way. Help was on the way. And that was ordered by McNamara twice. The third time, the president came on the horn and says, get those damn planes back. My thoughts are not for that ship. I don't want to embarrass an ally. That's out of his mouth. He was never to say this until he died. Well, the man died. He told us.
And that was, who said that?
Admiral Geis.
Geis?
Geis.
And he told it to,
He was Lieutenant Dave. He was lieutenant at the time. Dave Lewis, who was in charge of our operations down in the spaces, the NSA spaces. And it's pretty bad when when you hear that from an admiral, and stuff like that comes out now. I mean, we get it thrown in our face that we're liars. It's not true. How could we say this if it's not true? How would I even afford to sit here and say that?
who says you're liars?
There's people around the country that different ethnic groups that say that we're liars. The Jewish community here in New York State, which has been tough on where I speak. I've spoken Brockport College, going to speak in Cornell, and it's always open to the public. And every time we go out to speak, they put the billboard signs, the placards up, and they're always taken down by the Jewish Defense League. And it's an ongoing thing. And it's not only here in New York State, though. Any of our guys speak around the country. It's people go in there and make a statement and then leave, after we've done talking, telling of what went on, and they'll call us anti-Semites, and it's such a hurt. But that's what we have to deal with.
Besides the billboards being taken down,
Yeah.
Any heckling or?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, last one I did was in Boston. We had young Jewish JDL come, and while we were waiting for people to come in, they were turning them away at the door. We didn't know that. So I'm waiting, and 10 minutes go by, nothing. Nobody's coming in. I go out, and there's 6 tough guys standing there. So I went up to him, I said, what's going on? He says, well, you can't come here. He says, this guy's talking about the Jews that are no good, and you got to get out. I said, really? I said, well, I'm the guy that's talking, and I'm not talking about Jews. They were kids, and they kind of chested out. And I said, listen, I said, you let these people come in, and you come in too and sit in the back row. If I see you get up and leave during my 45 minutes, I promise I'll stop and I'll leave the stage. They stayed, they listened, and we talked for 2 hours afterwards. They learned one hell of a history lesson.
And what was their response?
They stayed and they listened. They learned. They asked questions. They found out it wasn't anything derogatory against Israel. So that's one incident. And when we first started to come out talking, we got an awful lot of press. We were in Washington a lot, and I got threats in the mailbox. And all of us that were vocal, we got the stand. Once in a while, we get them now.
What would the threat say?
Your death threats, you're going to die. Stop talking to Israel about Israel like that. We just turn them over to the FBI.
Did you ever see the opposite, though? and I've got to admit that sometimes I've seen this when the subject of your ship comes up, where you've got not the Jewish Defense League, but the rabid anti-Semites trying to
Oh.
draw you in for their purposes.
When we first came out, the America First organization got a hold of us down in New York City. And we knew nothing about them, but they were for us, and they were going to give us money and help promote the book, and they flew us down, and we started to have a meeting, and they wanted, it was like a panel, and we started telling our story, and all of a sudden people started jumping up all over the place. This is treason. This is this is treasonous. What the Americans did to you, American government. And I remember looking at Jim Ennis. I says, "What the hell's going on here?" And it got very apparent that it was an anti-Semitic group. I mean, hate mongers. The Spotlight was part of it. That's a paper. I don't know if it's out of New York or where, but they constantly,
Oh, the Spotlight.
yeah, constantly.
Well, they're always bringing you guys out.
They always, and we've told them for years, don't do it. We have nothing to do with you. So we got to always make that disclaimer, constantly, that we have nothing to do. We got sucked in by one of them one time. One of our officers did, and one more actually got sucked in by a press conference that they didn't say until after they started who they were, and it was down in Washington. So those are those rabid people too. But yet there's a lot of people that want to learn, want to know, want to learn what happened. And a lot of good people out there, go for one extreme to the other. But then there's the people that, like Wisconsin, like Zimmerman, like California, like Washington, all over the country, Florida. They're not only sympathetic, they will get the word out. They know what we want, and it's very simple. We want to get a comprehensive congressional investigation.
Remember when the, I think it was the number 2 gun, number 2 turret on the Iowa blew up? Did you
Yeah.
feel like any similarities between your case and that?
Well, what's interesting is the Harwood kid that they blamed, the sister came to us. She came right to us and asked, help me. And we told her what we feel that she should do. She did, fought it right to the end, and he got cleared. When the coal happened, all the station, that's why this guy who was here today, all the station came and got me. And I says, I don't want to say about the Liberty. All I want to do is tell the parents. We didn't know if there were any kids here from New York State. All I wanted to do is get a small message out to the parents that what was good then is still good now. No news is good news. I says, if you just let me say that, don't talk about the Liberty. I'll wear a white shirt and tie if you want. No. I said, well, I don't want to cross it in. So they said, wear your coat and all this, because these people know who I am. And I went on in every station, and I told and the one here that loved, she called me. She said, after found out her son was okay, she called and thanked me. And I said, it's still good today, as it was back then. No news is good news. So,
What about, now tell us about your Purple Heart, and how does the citation read?
my citation reads, as well as everybody else's, in all citations, there is no mention of Israel. There's no mention of where it took place. I've seen Purple Hearts and Bronze Stars and Silver Stars, and 90% of them have latitude and longitude and exactly where it happened, how it happened on the Purple Heart. Ours is just says my name. It says awarded the Purple Heart, and that's it. Signed by Paul Ignatius, Secretary of the Navy. Our captain's Medal of Honor, nothing about Israel in there. Nothing at all, no reference. And we heard that it had to be cleared by Israel before he got the Medal of Honor. I can tell you, can you stop that for a minute?
Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah. Well, even to this day, 60 Minutes is doing a film about us for the History Channel. They invited us, 5 of us from the ship, to come down or two of us, or three of us to come down and film in New York, and then they went out to the West Coast and filmed them. And it was supposed to be released on February 25th on the History Channel, so 2 weeks before, we got the word that there's going to be rescheduling. And there was a lot of our supporters out there that really got ripped and started calling the History Channel, and they finally called back to us. No, it's just a rescheduling. What we had found out is Israel found out that this thing was actually a go. They were going to do it, and they wanted to see it. And they pulled enough power to actually see it and interject some of their own stuff in there. It's a lot of power.
Yeah?
It's a lot of power to press. And that's a true story. Supposedly our State Department's seen it too.
I do know the History Channel is notorious for bumping their schedule, because I worked on a historical film with them once too. It was like it was supposed to be out here, and then it was next month, the month after.
But after prodding and saying that, you know, we want to know, and using a little bit better language than that, you know, we got the word. We knew what happened, but we wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth, and we did.
How were the rest of your shipmates faring?
Pretty good. We have actually two groups of guys. We're all together we're all in this together. But there's a group of us that are active. There's a group of them that are unactive. And in that group of unactive, that they don't want to be contacted at all, but they want the newsletter.
Interesting.
There's a lot of guys still scared out there. We were warned every day, plan of the day and verbally. Well, right after the attack, they came over. Admiral Kidd came over, John McCain's father, Senator McCain. They came onto the ship and they asked us, well, what happened? What would you do? And to make things easier, he took off the eagles. He says, I'm one of you guys now. He says, we're all civilians now. He says, just tell me what happened. So we started telling them, and it got to be very late. He says, how about writing down the statements? Okay, that was my job, picking up the statements from whoever wanted to submit them. So after the meeting was over, a couple hours, he put the eagles back on. He says, now I'm Admiral Kidd. You guys will not talk about this. You're not talking. What had come down from our own officers came directly from him. You won't talk together. You won't tell your parents. You won't tell anybody. This is top secret, classified. What happened? That's it. If you do, you're going to go to jail in Leavenworth. We'll have you arrested. The whole works. We still did 68 or 69 more statements. They were never entered in court of inquiry. So that's the kind of business they meant. Admiral Kane, who was in charge of all 6 fleet operations out there, made this thing zing through. He had his orders what to do. We've talked to Senator McCain, who will not talk with us at all, do the right thing.
What happened to the statements?
Oh, no. We had a tape, too, with the pilots on there speaking, and nowhere to be found.
But you were the ship's yeoman. You typed up the statements.
That's right.
And you,
I handed them to the man.
68 statements.
That's right. 68 or 69.
And it was it captain at the time, or was it Admiral Kidd?
Admiral.
Admiral Kidd?
Oh, yeah. Admiral Kidd. The man got him.
One thing I've never understood, how did the ship stay afloat?
It's where the torpedo hit. It hit a double stanchion and exploded inside before, instead of exploding as it went in. It hit, it was inside, then it exploded. So it was that doing it that way is why we stayed afloat. About 10 more feet. That would have been in the engine room and one of the boilers. Our officer who was in charge of us, engineering officer, George Golden, He had been through two torpedo attacks during World War II. And he told us, you know, that's what they're going to hit. This is many drills before. He would give us advice, you know, listen, if they're going to hit the engine room first. To save yourself any agony if you can't get out, he says, go right for the boiler. It'll be instant. And that's exactly what all us 19-year-old kids did. We hugged that boiler because we thought that's where it was coming. We were ready to give it up. It was, I shudder today to think about that we were going to give it up so easy.
But I mean, all the rocket, the machine gun.
It was unbelievable. We lost power, and it was totally black down in the engine room. And these tracers that were coming through were bouncing off of all the steel that was down there. And it was like fireflies, deadly fireflies. You just duck, you know, and they were going through the ship. It was just unbelievable. And as we took the torpedo, it went up, the ship actually lifted out of the water, came down and stayed at a 10-degree rest. When we prepared to abandon ship, we were going nowhere. We went back down and started lighting off the boilers. We weren't sure if it was going to sink, but as it listed, they came close and they were shooting at the water line to go through the engine to try to get to the boilers. They knew where the boilers were. It was, we were operating down there on our knees, hoping we could stay low enough to the water where these bullets couldn't come through. And of course, the guys that were fighting fires up topside, they were getting picked off with guys target practice on the torpedo boats. As they're running with fire hoses, they said they seen guys trying to pick them off with their 45s. I mean, it was disgusting.
Only one torpedo was launched, or?
One hit us, 4 or 5 were launched. We were in the engine, you know, you're on phones and you hear all these orders coming down. And first one came down is prepare for torpedo attacks starboard side. And we just looked at the phone talker, and this is no time to kid around because we're all doing what we're doing. And he said, this is it. So we positioned ourselves, you know, by the boiler there. And the third one, the fourth one, I think the fourth one hit us. And that's when it lifted out. I mean, it was just, I can't explain it, really.
You must have thought you were gone.
That was it. I thought, we kept looking around, you know, we were there we were waiting to give it up. And we were looking around, we thought maybe it hit below, and we're looking, lifting up plates, looking, and finally we heard the water swoop right in the next compartment over, you know, we heard it. And they were pulling guys out as fast as they could because there were many guys down there. But that was a needless death for those 25 guys because we got the message out 9 minutes into the attack. Those planes could have been there. They didn't have to fight them. They could have just been there and there would have been no torpedo attack. That's so disgusting to think about it. You know, there's acts of war that are disgusting, you know, in Vietnam and all, but this here is just, this is just like down and out murder. And their only thing is that they didn't kill us all. God knows they had enough time. They have probably 5 to 8 different stories of how the attack happened. You know, only took 5 minutes and they stopped, and I mean, there's different ones over the years. So they did it. They should fess up with it. Their big thing is they paid. They paid reparations. They paid for the ship. Well, it took them from '67 to 1980 to pay $6 million for a $40 million ship, and they paid to the wounded and to the dead. It was a real terrible formula the way they had to do it, and there were American lawyers that fought in court, you know, for every penny for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I got awarded, and 6 of us that didn't take it.
6 of you didn't take the award?
Right, I almost got court-martial for it, but what are you going to do? You've already killed me. You can't kill me twice. So that's what we say now, what are you going to do to me?
You were one of the ones who didn't take the award?
Yeah, there's 6 of us that didn't.
Is there anything else you'd like people to know about this?
Well, I think I've said all I could say about the incident itself. I would only want people to be able to read our book, be able to look at our webpage, make your own conclusions, and if you find out that you like what we're saying, you don't have to like what we're saying, but if you feel that this is up your alley to help us. Write your congressman, write your senator, write your local people. Tell them, some guys here that really want to be able to tell their story and have it documented for history. And that's what I'd like to say.
I think it's a good point to stop.